Welcome to the Midnight Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Easton Bennett, alongside my fellow co-host, Tyler Sinden. We are both entrepreneurs who are learning, growing, and building our own businesses, and our goal is to share our experiences and knowledge to help you grow and become a successful entrepreneur. Strap in. Tyler, we got a little bit of a different look today. How's it going?
It's going pretty good, man. It's been a long past few days, but we're hanging in there. I'm feeling, now that I'm talking, I feel like my voice isn't really there, but we're hanging in there. We're going to get through this because consistency is key.
Hey, and that's a key point of the episode today. We're going to be talking about consistency, but yeah, as you guys can see, we're in two different locations. People are probably going to be like, what podcast did I even click on? But yeah, I'm out of town. Tyler's no longer in Tampa. Where you at? Colorado, right?
Colorado. I was trying to think of a name for Spring Sinden. There we go. Colorado Spring Sinden.
Spring Sinden. You went from Tampa, Tyler, to Spring Sinden. I love it.
Yeah, so consistency, that's basically what we're doing here. It's like no excuses to get shit done. We came prepared, and then we're just gonna knock it out.
Yeah, we have a few notes, but before we get into those notes, we're gonna kind of give you guys a brief update from last week. I feel like we haven't filmed or done anything in like 3.5 weeks, but
it's been a while.
It's only been about a week. So Tyler, what's new for you?
So it's funny because I'm pretty sure last week was the week I talked about us with the orders, and we ran out of stock on one of our products, and then no orders were coming in. And over this past week, I think we had a good amount of orders. It was weird because we had they all just came in within this last week. And then before that, we didn't have any for a good 3+ weeks. So it was weird that they all just kind of came in at the same time, different products too, which is good. And so that's one update. Obviously in Colorado Springs past few days, it's been a grind. I tried to just drive as much as possible, and I don't think my mom listens to this, but I almost crashed, and I'm pretty sure, so it was a 3-lane highway, and I'm pretty sure I was in the middle. I'm lucky it was really good location. There wasn't any guardrails or there wasn't any cars around me, but I'm pretty sure I was in the middle lane. And then all of a sudden I wake up and I'm on grass, all 4 tires. I'm like, oh fuck. And then I just swerve, try and get back on the road. I swerve once on the road, swerve back again on the road, swerve back again, and then I'm going, and I'm just thinking to myself holy fuck, that was so close. And I was just my adrenaline was spiked at the time, so I was wide awake after that, but I'm I don't care. I'm taking naps nonstop. I'm not trying to power through this because I wouldn't say it was a near death experience, but that was a near tragic serious event there. So it really put a lot into perspective there.
Yeah, you can't be trying to do the old 5-hour energy trick, Tyler. I know you want to power through things, but if you aren't alive, this show can no longer go on. I can't do this. Can't do this by myself. But hey,
yeah,
you know what?
We're alive.
At least you learned how to get back on the road, which is good.
Yeah, we got lucky. So we're still here, and we're gonna continue with the show.
So a good transition into your crazy vehicle experience. I also had my own lovely vehicle experience this week. Monday, I was out of town in my production van, and the serpentine belt just absolutely blew up about 15 miles outside of the city that I was leaving, and I was about 2 hours away from my house. So I went to drive back to Minot, and the engine overheated. I looked below the van, and the belt was just hanging there. So I had to sit there for about an hour, wait for a tow truck, got that towed back to Carrington, had to have my dad come pick me up from Minot. He drove me back because I had a shoot the next morning. So picked me up in Carrington, loaded up all my stuff from my van into my truck, and then headed off to the shoot the next day. But yeah, the belt exploded, and now my production van is 2 hours away from my home city. So have to go pick up that next week. And then another lovely thing that happened while on the road, I drove out to Munich, North Dakota, which is about 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes away. And then I got back to Minot, realized I forgot my stuff in Munich. So
when you said Munich to me the other day, I thought you were just saying it's in Munich, Germany, bumfuck nowhere. I thought you were saying it as a metaphor, it's middle of nowhere. That's what I thought you were saying. It's completely far away. I didn't know it was an actual place.
Yeah, okay. Legit. It was named after Munich, Germany. So it's Munich, North Dakota.
Okay.
So yeah, I forgot my camera case and one of my lights there, and had to drive back and get it. So yeah, so it was a lovely week, and we're over it though. So a lot of miles, put on a lot of miles this week. Now we're in Bismarck, which is about an hour and a half south of Minot. So we're all over the map.
How you liking traveling? Because I know we've talked about you being like a traveling videographer, and me being on this trip. I've thought about it. I'll fly out and I'll create content for you. I'll film videos. I'll make magic happen or something like that. And I thought of like a slogan. It's like, I'll turn your life into a movie. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So
Yeah.
how are you liking doing all this traveling? Because like at the same time, you also mentioned in the past doing like the Bismarck business podcast, the Grand Forks
Yep.
business podcast. That would be a lot of traveling for you. So how are you liking it?
Well, I enjoy going to different places to shoot and, getting into those communities and shooting around that area. But one thing I'm really starting to not like is the amount of hours that I'm wasting driving. Whereas, if I drive Sunday, I drove 4 hours and then 3 hours after that. So there's 7 hours that day. And then the next day I drove 6 hours. And then the day after that, I was driving 6 hours. And then the day after that was another 6 hours. So it's like I'm wasting a whole week of work just sitting in the vehicle, which it's nice because I can listen to podcasts and audiobooks and that kind of stuff. But really, I'm losing so much time on being able to work on computer tasks and, video editing and that kind of thing. So that's the one thing. If I did have to continue doing a lot of these traveling videographer shoots, I'd like to have,
Private jet.
maybe a team or somebody else that goes with me and someone else can drive while I sit in the passenger seat and I can actually get some work done. So
just Uber.
that's the one thing I've found out. It's that it's tough to just Uber. It's tough to get a lot of work done when you're constantly driving.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's also tying into something that I did want to do a podcast episode on, is valuing your time and just starting out pricing your services. I know we did an episode on like finances and pricing your services, but I think valuing your time and your worth is a good episode. And on my trip from home to Tampa, I was thinking a lot about valuing my time, because similar to you, I was listening to an episode of Ed Milet's show with Rob Dyrdek, however you pronounce his last name.
Rob Dyrdek, yep.
He talked a lot about his time and his time management and how he can get more time in the day. How can he scale this meeting back and get 5 minutes there, 10 minutes here? And I was just thinking about that the whole time, because I'm wasting my whole day. And it's like, how much do you value your time? Because you get a plane ticket for say $500, but that trip alone costed me 24 plus hours to drive from Canada to Tampa, plus gas money, plus food. So it's like, that's going to add up, plus all the valuing of the time. And then especially going from Tampa to Colorado, now I'm paying for gas there. And then it's been like a 30-hour trip. So it's like valuing my time that I could have paid for a plane ticket for $500, got there in a few hours. And then I got like, it's valuing your time. So yeah, I think that's a good episode for the future.
I think, well, let's do that episode here either next week or a couple weeks from now. But yeah, I totally agree with you. It's like, what is the cost of that time? Because how much money could you be able to make or potentially make if you didn't have that time? And it kind of clicked in my head. Maybe that's why celebrities, obviously not the only reason, but why celebrities don't drive anywhere. And Gary Vee specifically, he's always riding in the back of a vehicle, working on his phone or on phone calls or whatever it is. And same with Ryan Serhant, a real estate guy that I follow. So it's starting to make sense why none of these people are really driving anywhere. I don't think I'm to the level where I need a chauffeur to drive me everywhere, but even for these longer trips, it might make more sense. Yeah,
I agree. I connected with this guy the other day, and he had a coach, and he asked him what your time's worth, like what's an hour of your time worth, and he basically said what his billable hour was. He's like, no, what's your time? How much do you value your time? And he basically got him to say, what's your biggest deal that you got? How much time did you put into it? And he's like, it was a networking event. It took me 2 hours. And then I was able to generate X amount of revenue and then divide that by 2. And that's what you're worth. So it's like $2,000 like for an hour or whatever. And then it's like, if you're going to be driving for say 24 hours and you're valuing your time at $2,000 per hour, do you not think it's a lot more beneficial to just buy a plane ticket or pay someone else to do it for you instead of wasting your time?
Yeah, because if 24 hours at $48,000, if that's really what your
Oh,
time's worth, then it makes sense not to be hopping in a vehicle and getting behind the wheel.
yeah. I the only excuse I tell myself is because I love the convenience of having my car and being able to drive around. But then at the same time, if I'm worth $2,000 per hour, I could just go to the city, rent a car, and then just rent that out for because if 2,000 times 24, $48,000, and then maybe it's a couple $100 to rent the car, it pays for itself.
But you just have to figure out, are you really worth $48,000? Some people for sure.
Yeah.
Me and you right now, probably not. So
Yeah.
once you get to that time when you can actually value, it makes sense to do that. The only other thing I want to touch on my end, had a couple more outreaches, which is good. One, they're both from existing clients that I've worked with, so kind of just dipping back in there, which leads me to believe that they enjoy working with me. So that's exciting. Other than that, I don't got anything else. Tyler, anything else you want to touch on?
No, let's just get this on the road because it's been a long 30 hours for Tyler. It's been a long probably like 40 hours because I didn't sleep the day before. So like I woke up at like 4, left that night at 1 a.m. and now it's 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m. my time, but I actually gained 2 hours because I went behind the time zone. So it's technically like 12:30. So, and I've only had like five naps.
Tyler's like, I don't even need to sleep. It's whatever. All right, let's get into this week's topic, consistency. We mentioned it at the top of the episode. The really thing that I had to learn with consistency in business is that everything boils down to consistency. Wow, I'm struggling with that word. But everything boils down to that. If you're going to try something, you have to mentally tell yourself that you're going to be consistent with it and go on from there. I think we had a podcast episode where we touched on, or maybe a part where we touched on, commit to a certain amount of time. But I think everything really boils down to consistency. What would you say, Tyler?
Yeah, I thought you were going similar to our last episode that we did, where when you lose motivation, it comes and goes, and you're not always going to be motivated, and it's about the consistency, the habits. That's where I thought you were going to go with it, but I like what you said. The other podcast episode where we talked about if you're going to start something, say I'm going to do this for a minimum of 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and then you're going to be able to see the payoff then. So yeah, consistency is huge. Rarely does the outcome come over a few months, and I feel like a lot of people are starting to want to have that, especially in the day and age that we live in with the social media, our phones. We're able to connect instantly through texting, FaceTime, calling, Instagram. You're able to connect with everyone worldwide. Amazon's delivering the next day. Everyone wants it now, and everyone's just trying to find a business. Hey, how can I have $1 million business with that? That's going to be built within like a month, and it's like never gonna happen.
Yeah, and that's where the one thing I've started to realize is that no outcome really happens if you aren't consistent. If you're looking to see an outcome like YouTube, if I'm looking to hit a certain point, and that's one of the things I was going to talk about later that I haven't been consistent with, it's hard to see any success on any adventure you take on if you're not consistent with it, because really the success and the things that you're looking to achieve in life really come from that consistency. But if you're all over the map, I don't think you'll ever hit it. And if you do hit it, it's going to be hard to see.
Yeah, there's one quote by Steve Jobs. It's like, if you look at most overnight successes, they took like 10 years or something like that. I don't know exactly what he says, but it's something along those lines. And it's like, it's so true, because you don't really hear about all the back end work. Like with Hormozy, you can look at him and be like, oh yeah, he was kind of an overnight success. But what you don't see is the 5 to 7 years that he was working, building his businesses, learning, failing, growing. And then he went into other businesses, learned, failed, grow again. And then he went into other businesses, and then he was able to build it up and then sell it. So it's like all this stuff compiles in, and it's like he wouldn't have got there if he didn't have the consistency to keep on doing it, and if he quit. So it comes down to not quitting and being consistent.
Yeah, and really in the beginning, I think it's the hardest to do in the beginning is not quitting, because that's when you're not seeing anything. You don't see much traction, you don't see many viewers, you don't see many sales, whatever it might be. But it's like that compound growth effect that we've talked about. It starts out super slow, and then once it hits a certain point, that's when it starts to ramp up, and that's when it feels like it's that overnight success.
What I like about doing that, especially during the start, is maybe just having some tasks, like a few tasks to do every single day. And then what you can do is just check it off. And then it just shows, so you're able to see the micro actions that you're taking that are going to build up over time, because you're not going to see that overnight. You're not going to see that after a month. You're probably not even going to see it after a year. It's going to take a lot of time for it to come to fruition. So it's like, do something like that where you're able to see all the effort that you're putting into it. And then if you put it on like a calendar and you're checking every day off, and then you look at it and then you see 27 out of 30 days checked off because you did 5 tasks that day, it's going to pay off in the long run because you were consistent.
Yeah, it's almost like gamifying it, especially in the beginning, when I think we've talked about in a previous episode where you almost have to enjoy the journey and the process of doing it more than you do the outcome. So if I'm like, hey, I want to make $250,000, I might have to enjoy the process of obtaining those clients and figuring out how to get them and strategies to, get meetings with them, more than me just, I want to get to this monetary goal. So if you don't enjoy the process, and again, it's cliche, everyone always says, oh, enjoy the process, not the journey, but it really does boil down to that.
Yeah. And I think that, like you said, that helps out so much with being consistent, because if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to do it a lot longer than if you don't enjoy doing it. So it's tough to find what you do like, and that you're going to be, I think it just goes back to what you first said, is just saying, I'm going to do this for 5 years, and whatever you commit to, just do it for 5 years. Just don't quit. Just be consistent.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where, that's where you'll start to see that success and that compound growth. I like that, that visual of that curve kind of going up. So let's get into some examples of some things we've been consistent with, and, kind of the payoff we've seen with a little bit of them. And then also we'll talk about some things that maybe we failed to stick to, that maybe we wanted to stick to a little bit more. So we obviously both have businesses, video production company, and then Nuevo on your end, the retail company. I think we've been pretty consistent with both of them, would you say? Because there have been times when I've just wanted to quit the company, my own, but I've been sticking with it for going on year 5 now.
Yeah, you probably more than me, just because you've been doing it on such a much bigger scale than what I've been doing. So your scale's a lot larger than mine. So I think you have a lot more and a lot better consistency just because you have a larger scale. So there is that, but at the same time, there is a little bit with us in Nuevo where we have been consistent with creating blogs and trying to push that. And what we're starting to see is that compound growth is starting to pick up now, and we're starting to get the views. We're starting to see the payoff. But at the same time, I feel like there is the inconsistency that we've had with the business, because there's been spans of time where we aren't posting on social media. You like go to our social media platform and it's like, we haven't posted in 2 months. We haven't posted in 3 months. And it's like, okay, we got to have a good balancing act where we're consistently posting, we're consistently showing up and having that there. So I feel like you are a little bit more consistent. So maybe you can talk on that.
Yeah, and I think you break it down into 2 different aspects when you're running the business. One is, like you just mentioned, the day-to-day tasks that you want to stay consistent with, which is good, but it's really hard. There's going to be days when you get off track or something goes wrong and you don't finish what you want to. But more so, I like to look at it in the grand scheme of things, in the macro of looking every single day. I choose, okay, I'm going to do this business again today. Today, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to be consistent. Under that, there's obviously going to be the daily tasks, the day-to-day stuff I have to do. But every day you choose, I'm still going to run with this. I'm not quitting today. So I think that's really what it boils down to. As long as you're making that one decision every day that, hey, I'm sticking with this business. We might be at a rough time right now. Maybe we haven't had any sales in 2 months. Maybe I haven't had a client in 2 months. We're sticking with it and getting through it. And then you can just choose that business every day. Almost like a pick-me girl.
A what?
A pick-me girl. Have you seen that? Where it's like, oh, pick me, I'm the best. It's like you have to pick your business every day.
No, I haven't really seen that. But what it made me think of is just one day at a time. You wake up and you just work on your business just for that one day, and that's it. And then and then once you work on it, you do what you need to do, what needs to be done. You go to bed that night, you accomplished it. You wake up the next day, you repeat that. You work on the business. It's just one day at a time.
Yeah, and I feel like I've talked about this on the show before. There's this old saying, and I'm gonna butcher it, but there's a guy and he's talking to a horse and he's stuck in this tunnel and he's looking at the end of the tunnel and he can't see the light. He doesn't know what's down there, and he asks this horse, I don't know why it's a horse, it might not even be, but he asks this horse, what do? I don't know what to do. And he says, well, can you see your next step? And he looks down at his feet and he can see his next step, and he's like, well, then just do that, just take that. So eventually all of those steps are going to get you to the end of the tunnel. All of those bricks that you're laying are going to get you there. And honestly, I think it's more rewarding when you're doing the day-to-day tasks when people aren't seeing it. They're like, oh, you haven't got this many views, or you're not an overnight success. It's going to be so much more beneficial 6, 7, 8 years down the road when people say, oh my gosh, you're an overnight success and you figured it out, and how did you do it? And then you can point back and say, look at these 10 years worth of stuff that I've been doing to get here.
Right. Oh, shoot. What were you just saying? The one step in front of the other. I think that's really good because and then what you also need to do is I started, so when I was journaling, I would do reflections on the past month, like what went well, what didn't go well, and just reflect a little bit. And then what I would do later is at the end of the year, I would reflect back on the year and be like, what went well on the year? What did I do? What did I accomplish? And I think that's one really good thing that you should do is reflect back on how far you've come, because a lot of the times I don't think we really realize just how far we've come. Because I don't know how often you reflect back on your journey, but when you look at when you first started out, like the equipment you were using, the quality that you were putting out, it's progressed so far, your knowledge, your experience. So I think it's a really good thing to do, to just look back and see how far you've actually come.
Yeah, and it's rewarding too when you look back, because you don't really realize where you've gotten to. It feels like you're in the same spot, but like you said, if I look back at the old lights I was using, it was a Home Depot light with a cardboard box around it. And even if it's not even specifically like filmmaking stuff on how I was shooting things, but even the business knowledge. How are you meeting with clients? How are you structuring these calls? How are you actually helping them get to their goals? You just learn so much through, I've been doing it for 4 years now, but you just learn so much. And it is, like you said, it is good to look back on things.
Do you look back often?
Not terribly often. I don't sometimes it'll pop in my head when I'm pissed off, or I'm like, wow, this business is not going well, or it's in one of those ruts. And then you look back and think, yeah, but look where you've gotten in 4 years. Like, imagine another 4 years where you'll be. So it's a little bit grounding when you think back on it. And it does help you mentally get through those blocks.
Do you journal much?
I don't journal at all.
No. Okay.
Not a writer.
I just connected with this guy. This is completely off topic, but I just connected with this guy, and he knows this guy. He said he's created some short films. He's created some movies that have been on like Amazon Prime and other streaming services. So he was trying to connect me with him before I left with Tampa, but I left. So maybe I'll connect with him, and then maybe I'll be able to link you up with him, and then he can like maybe help mentor you a little bit. Maybe you'll be able to join him along, because I know you want to do that type of stuff as well.
Yeah, and honestly, lately I've been thinking that doing that stuff would be cool, and having a movie on Amazon, all this stuff, but I've almost fixed it. I can't remember where I saw it, but I think it was maybe Alex Hormozy who's talking about it, and he said you have to choose whether you want to be an artist or whether you want to be a business person. And the more so, and maybe it's going through this video coaching program I'm going through, I'm leaning more towards the business side of things, where I'd rather work on that on a day-to-day basis than I would to actually go out there and shoot and edit video and that kind of thing. So I'm still obviously doing video stuff on the day-to-day, but really I think the goal is pivoting to creating a team that can handle all of this work and me be more hands-off.
So what would that entail for you? What would you be working on? What would you like, building a team, leadership, etc.? What would that be for you?
Yeah, I think building the team, putting in structures and strategies to make that run more efficiently, putting in systems, and then on the sales side of things, really be the front facing person with the client. So all of the client management and figuring out, what do they want to do? How do we hit their goals? What's the best strategy for that? And then below that, you have people that are filming, you have people that are editing, maybe you do some pre-production, but really I want to be just that first point of contact with the client and then have a team under me that handles a lot of that stuff. Because lately I've been really enjoying all of the calls that I've been able to go on and all the strategies on figuring out how to make these clients hit their goals, how it can help my company, and then going from there. So really I'm pivoting away from the artist side of things and more to the business side, which there's still both involved, but you kind of have to pick one way or the other.
Would you ever have a sales guy?
Yeah, eventually I think.
Yeah.
But I think I need to figure it out and master it first before I can train somebody else to do it,
Do you though? So what I hear a lot is, as an entrepreneur, you're a master of you're a jack of all trades, but master of none. So you know how to do everything, but you don't know how to be the best at it. So if you found someone that's an expert at sales and you brought them on, you know how to bring them through the process, you know how it works and all that, but he knows how to sell. So if you brought him in because he's like master closer or whatever, master introductory guy, whatever it is, I think that would be decent.
Yeah, and I probably shouldn't use the word master. Like, I don't want to master sales because I don't want to do sales for the rest of my life, but at least figure out like what's the process, go through a couple of these, because I've implemented the new sales process, go through a couple of them and figure out how it actually works and kind of fine tune it. So it's like, hey, here's the process. And then obviously I'm decent at it, I can do it, but find someone that's really good at it. Say, hey, here's the script I've been using. Here's the process we do. Just put them in and then let them go to work.
Yeah. I'll talk about one business that I had that I was not consistent with. You helped me out a bit with it. New Frame Digital. Maybe it'll revive back soon. But yeah, I started that business and I was not consistent at all. I think I made about 2 or 3 blogs. I maybe made a LinkedIn post and maybe 1 or 2 social media posts, and that was about it. And I don't even think I cold emailed anyone. So, and judging by what I've said, I made a website for it. I made a highlight reel, whatever. Judging by what I said, I'm assuming you know how the business went. It is no longer in business because there was no consistency. So
yeah.
I think,
sorry, go ahead.
I just think consistency is huge. Maybe if I would have stuck with it, I could have been following your footsteps.
Yeah. And that's the thing where you were on the right page, and we talked about that business a lot, but I think it boils down to, in the beginning there, and this is getting off topic a little bit, but in the beginning, there are so many things that you have to do in your business. It's like, okay, I need to be posting on social media. I need to be doing blog posts. I need to build a website. And I think you need to choose one thing, what's going to actually get you to that next step. And LinkedIn posts and blogging might not have been it, where it's like, hey, the one thing I need right now is clients, whether I shoot for them for free or not. So maybe it was, hey, I'll shoot these videos for free instead of essentially burning time doing this LinkedIn post where, really it boils down to, I need a few clients to at least show what my work is. So that's maybe, if it ever gets revived, we can have a conversation on that end.
Yeah, sweet. I think at the same time, I may have been lacking confidence at the time. I feel like I have gained a lot more skills, a lot more knowledge over the last 2 to 3 years. So yeah, it was about it's approaching 3 years. Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
So it was almost 3 years. And obviously over those 3 years, gained a lot of skills, gained a lot of knowledge, so experience. So obviously I'm a lot better now, but at the same time, I lacked confidence at the time. And what I was doing just last year, I was cold emailing a lot of people, and I couldn't even pull myself to cold email people back then. So it's just, that's a little introspective thing of looking back at how far I've come just over 3 years. I'll actually cold email people because I have confidence now. I have a lot more skills, a lot more knowledge because I've been putting in the work.
Yeah, and with that comes the consistency. You get experience. The more consistent you are, the more videos you're shooting in this case, the more clients you're dealing with, the more confidence you get because you are being consistent and you're figuring out how to actually use your skills and help out clients. So I think we could talk a little bit about, some things on why you should stay consistent. Obviously, we've touched on a little bit of them, but it allows you to really figure out what works. And that's what I like in the beginning. A lot of people, or some might say, they don't want to be consistent because they don't see any payoff in the beginning. I would almost spin that to a positive, as you get to figure out what works. You have so much trial and error period where no one's watching, so you can figure out what works by, maybe it's a YouTube video and you can say, oh, the way I was talking here sucked, or this editing sucked, or these graphics sucked. I need to switch it here, or these thumbnails are working better than others. You have so much room for this trial and error period to kind of work out the kinks. What are your thoughts on that?
I really like that idea, just because at the same time, it sucks because the small amount of people that might be seeing you and might be looking at you are people you know. So it's like, it's a trade-off because you probably don't have a lot of people looking at you and seeing what you're doing, but the small amount of people that you do have looking at you and seeing what you're doing, they're going to be your friends and family or whatever it is, your close circle. But I think that also opens the door that if it is your close friends, your family, sometimes you might not get it, but I think it opens the door for them to give you feedback and give you, like, try and help you out along the journey. Be like, oh, I see you trying. I see you actually trying. Like, a lot of people don't even try. So it's like, oh, I see you trying. Maybe try this out. Maybe try this out. I tried this. And then maybe it's just, you're able to connect with these other people. And then I think it's a really good way to look at it. It's a really good phase of just trial and error.
Do you think people are worried about that beginning phase because they want things to be perfect from the very beginning?
Probably. I feel like everyone's like perfection. Everyone says they're a perfectionist and they don't want to post a video because it's not perfect. They don't want to do that because it's not perfect. They don't want to, whatever it is, they're not ready because they're not perfectly ready. So I think there is a huge, what's it called? Analysis paralysis, where you're just constantly like looking at it and you just don't ever end up doing it. So yeah, I would agree with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree too. I think Mr. Beast said one time about how you have to post those first 100 videos because they're going to be shitty and you just have to get them out of the way. And I think that goes with anything, whether it's blog posts or whether it's, building websites, or it is YouTube content or TikTok content, whatever it might be. You have to get those first shitty videos out of the way because you just don't know what you're doing. You have to work through it. And the common misconception is people sitting back waiting for the perfect time, the perfect scenario to get started in their business or to get started in content creation or blog writing. But really, in reality, there is no perfect time to get started. So you might as well start now. Now, what's that saying you always say? The best time to start was yesterday. The next best time is now. So really, there's no time to wait for things to be perfect because it'll never be the perfect storm for you to start whatever you're about to start.
Yeah, and another way to look at it is if it's not the perfect time and say it's a shitty time, say it's a recession, that's honestly going to be the best time to start it because you're learning in a shit environment. Imagine what you're going to know and learn in a shit environment, and when that good environment comes, you're going to be so well prepared because you were able to manage the storm. And now the storm's not there and it's sunshine and daisies, you're going to be thriving.
And it's almost exciting if you start in a recession or a lull in the market where you're like, man, I really got to figure out how the hell to do this. And then when things are going good, you're like, I'm a rainmaker here.
Seasons to business.
Yeah, exactly. But it's exciting. You got to go through all of it. And then you learn through all of it. And that's the exciting part. If you're not a person that really likes to roll with the punches and kind of learn through things, it's going to be more difficult for you. So I think that's one part of your mindset you have to learn, is that you have to just get used to things being thrown at you, battling through all the shit that you have to go through, and enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely being consistent.
Yeah, so consistency is key. Again, one thing I'll point you guys to is that compound growth graph. everything starts out super slow, and then eventually it's going to hit a point where it just starts to go vertical. So keep that in the back of your mind. Compound growth, baby. One block, one step. Talk to that horse, whatever that horse is saying, and go from there.
Yeah. Do you want to touch on the failures that we tried that we say we were consistent or wanted to be consistent with, and maybe like some lessons we learned? Because I feel like there's also other lessons that maybe you don't often think about, especially growing up. I played drums for like a year or maybe 2, and I quit because I wasn't consistent with it. I didn't get good. I could go the other route. I played hockey since I was probably 3 or 4 or 5, and then I stayed with it until I was 18. And by the time I was 18, I was good. It's consistency. So it's different trade-offs. And then we look at our other ones, say with social media, YouTube. It's funny you said YouTube earlier because I think I was driving here and I was just remembering in my head that your goal for this year for YouTube is 10,000 subs, and you're at a total of, I think, 0 videos posted this year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's pretty sick. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
I feel like you're almost there with that.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple more videos and I think I'll hit it. But yeah, that's one thing with YouTube. When I did start doing it, and I think it's at like 900 subs right now, but
hey,
I haven't stayed consistent with YouTube, mainly because I just frankly forget about it sometimes and then just put it on the back burner to work on other things. But when I did start posting a lot of YouTube videos, it's probably 2 years ago, I did start to see a lot of traction. I was posting about 1 a week, and maybe it was more so during the time of COVID when everyone was on YouTube and that sort of time frame when things were crazy. But I started to see some traction and things started shooting up. I could see an actual growth, like that compound growth graph that we talked about with my YouTube subscribers. And then I just stopped posting videos for some reason. I think I just got busy with client work out of nowhere and just forgot about it. And ever since then, I haven't really gotten back into it. So that's one thing that I've struggled to stay consistent with. It's one of those things that, yeah, having 10,000 YouTube subscribers would be awesome, but it's just, I don't know if it's a goal that I say and then I not forget, but I'm just like, it's a goal and I don't really mean it to be a goal. But yeah, it's mainly because I don't know in my mind if I've directly correlated it to business growth. I know it's good for the long term, like 10 years from now, it's going to be awesome, but I just have to get myself to actually act on that.
I don't know how directly correlated it is with your clients, but I'll give you an example of what I heard the other day. With your YouTube channel, I think it's more so give, and you're building a brand. So you're give, and you're helping other people out, and you don't end up asking for anything. So what you end up doing after you give, and then they're expecting you to ask them to buy something, then you start giving more, and it's like give again, and then their guard starts to get let down, and then they think the ask is coming, and then you go give again, and then their guard keeps going lower and lower, and it's building that brand up, and then they're going to start sharing it because they trust you. And that's basically what happened with Gary Vee, where that's all he was doing. And then once he asked for one thing, his NFTs, they blew up because over years he was giving, and people, I mean, he never really asked for anything. And then when the one time he did ask for something, he built up that brand because he kept giving. So I think that's a good thing for you to keep in your mind. And you talked about you wanting to be more on the business. Yeah, on the business. Correct? Yeah. On the business. Would you be doing YouTube if you were working more so on the business?
Yeah, on the business, and that's the personal branding content as far as, LinkedIn and Instagram Reels and TikTok and YouTube. That's stuff I correlate to the on the business work where it is building the personal brand, and then in the business is actually doing client work like pre-production and storyboarding and editing, where at one point when I do hire an editor eventually, that's the stuff that I'd like to put onto them saying, hey, I'll sit down and I'll film this YouTube video. I'll be the talking head, but I want you to put everything together. Obviously, I'll give you direction on, hey, here's maybe I can do the polishing, here's the title I want to use and the keywords and that kind of stuff. But I just don't want to be hands-on with the editing and the actual execution of that work. I would more so like to oversee it and be in the videos if I need to be. So I would correlate the personal branding stuff to on the business work. It's just figuring out the time to, and maybe I'm going to start doing that on weekends. I'll start to set Saturdays aside to actually do YouTube and personal branding. But yeah, eventually, hopefully I have an editing team that can take care of all of that, and I'll just be the poster child of all this content.
Yeah, that would be sweet. So you talking about this made me think about an idea that I had that I really want. Like, I thought it would be cool for me to do that I'll save for the business segment. But you saying that, I feel like it's probably been done before. It's a very basic idea. But yeah, I think just having the editor there, because that's a part that you say that you don't like. And this could tie back into the consistency, because maybe the consistency isn't with YouTube because there's aspects of the process that you don't like. So get rid of those so you can be consistent with it. So for you don't like editing, get an editor, pay them $50 to edit the video, and there you go. Now you got YouTube videos and you're consistent.
Yeah, I think it's, now that you say that, it's definitely that. There's parts of the reason why anyone doesn't do anything. I think there are parts of it that you don't enjoy doing. And I think for the production process, the more I go through it, the more and more I learn. I don't love editing. Yeah, it's okay here and there telling that story and doing that, but I really don't love the editing process. Whereas if I could delegate that out, that would be awesome. And there's the course I'm actually going through right now walks you through the steps. If you don't enjoy part of the process, the things you should think about when going through it are: one, can you eliminate the task? If you can't eliminate the task, okay, go to number 2. If you can't eliminate, can you automate it? Okay. If you can't automate it, okay, 3, can you delegate it? Okay, if you really can't delegate it, give it to someone else. 4, then you have to plan it. So planning it and putting it on the calendar is really the 4th step of a task that you don't want to do. So it's eliminate, automate, delegate, or plan it. So if you go through all of those and you really can't figure out in those first 3 to push it off onto someone or get rid of it, then yeah, you have to plan it. But maybe I'll start having to look through the tasks that I'm not enjoying through that structure.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's a big aspect of consistency, is maybe it's just figuring out either A, how you can enjoy the shit that you don't like, or B, getting rid of it, like doing one of those steps that you said.
Yeah. And that actually gets my mind spinning on some things that, how can I automate things to buy some time back? At the end of the day, it's buying that time back and getting back to doing the things you want to do, the things you can be consistent with, to tie the episode back in.
It's all about consistency.
Tyler, anything else you want to touch on for the consistency? Otherwise, I'll throw it to you for the business idea. Might be a little bit shorter of an episode, as we are flying by the seat of our pants right now, but that's all right. I think we got some good content in here. Yeah,
I do think so as well. Consistency is huge. You got to stay with it. It doesn't happen overnight, but looking at the time, I feel like this is about pretty in line with what we're usually at with our first few episodes. We did usually start to average around 50 to 60 minutes, but I feel like the range of 45 to 60 minutes is a good range.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm just looking at time now. We're at about 44 minutes, so that's nice. Tyler, I'll throw it over to you for the business idea, and then we'll let the people get on their way.
So this was an idea I had the other day, and I honestly, it's probably already been done. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe not specifically, but it probably has been done at some point. But basically, I just wanted to do something extremely uncomfortable, because so what happened last night, 2 nights ago, is I don't go to the bar like ever, and I went to the bar, and there was this girl. I was talking to her before, and she said she was going to be there. I went there, and I don't drink, so it's like I don't have that liquid courage or whatever. I don't have that confidence. And then it just made me think of doing something uncomfortable every single day. And maybe that branding would be going up to the hottest, I don't want to use the term hottest, but like the best looking girl, in my opinion, and then just talking to her and like being like, hey, can we go on a date? And if she says yes, be like, I'm actually doing this social experiment where I just go up to the best looking girl I honestly see in the day, and I ask them on a date. And today you were that girl. And it's just getting me outside my comfort zone. And then it's just documenting the whole thing. And the reason it made me think of this is because you were saying to outsource the video. And that's what I was thinking about doing, because it's like, I'll maybe talk with my one buddy if he wants to do this, because it would be like a lot of traveling. He likes to travel. He likes video. And then it's like, I'll focus more on just creating the content, and then I'll ship off the video to someone else to edit it for me. And then they'll be able to put out really high quality edited videos. And yeah, that was basically my idea. It's just because we're so comfortable with everything we do. We're sitting in a roof, or a room with a roof over our head, has air conditioned rooms or temperature controlled rooms. We have water at the, a few steps away from us. We live in such a comfortable society that comfort's taken away from us growing and learning. And it was just thinking of different ways that I could get outside my comfort zone and learn and grow. So that's pretty much what it was. It's creating like a YouTube type series.
There you go. YouTube series. You see a lot of those on TikTok sometimes about people going up to each other. I do like the aspect of shipping it off to be edited. The one thing maybe we can add on to that service is if there was some service, because the main issue I see with shipping footage off and having someone else edit it is the uploading and the downloading process takes longer than it should. So if there was some sort of service, and I'm sure there is, where you could maybe set up the project file and they could remote in to edit it on your device, whether it's your laptop or computer or iPad or whatever it is, and then it stays on there. So if you could somehow remove the remote video editing experience from actually utilize it, like to having to have all of the files, I think that would be a game changer too.
Yeah, that's true. We've been struggling sending these videos back and forth. The audio files are fine, but sending the video files back and forth, it's been a struggle. And yeah, so that's
I don't know what the issue is with that.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's what the Mike does at DeLuca Films for the weddings. Because they're close together, they just put it on like a external hard drive. They just give it to him. He gives it back. So it's a lot easier that way, as opposed to uploading it, downloading it. So yeah, I agree with that point.
Yeah, and there are services like I use frame.io. There's a client I just had that they're based out of California, and they wanted to view the footage and look at it and download it. But if you have 250 gigabytes worth of footage, it's like, okay, if they need that turnaround quicker, you can either ship them a hard drive or they're just going to have to download it. And say someone doesn't have good internet, or say I'm on the road, which this is actually the issue I had, is I was trying to upload it here in Bismarck, and the Wi-Fi at the place I'm at isn't fantastic. So I was struggling. So I actually had to send the hard drive back with my parents to Minot and had to have them go to my studio and upload it on my computer. So if there was some sort of process where it was easier and quicker, that would be ideal.
Save that business idea for the next week. Brainstorm it out.
I'll brainstorm it. I'll workshop it and we'll go there.
Perfect.
Tyler, anything else you got for this episode?
That is all.
That's episode 27 of The Midnight Entrepreneur. If you have any questions you'd like us to cover or answer, you can email us at themidnightentrepreneur@gmail.com. If you found value in this content or found this entertaining, share this with a friend or post it on your story. If you really enjoyed the show, we'd love a rating and a review on wherever you're listening. Talk to you guys next week for another episode of The Midnight Entrepreneur.
People get rewarded in public for what they practice in private consistently. Tony Robbins.
A little consistency quote to end the episode.
Had to tie it back in.